Chris, that was
It's the offense. Here's the offense just blowing away in a win.
I think that actually went farther. Let's get this sucker started.
Get dialed in, Panthers fans. Here comes an in-depth look at your team. Exclusive interviews. Locker room insight. Ready? Let's huddle up.
Let's just do it, okay?
For Panthers Playbook, driven by Carolina Ford Dealers. Here are your hosts, Dennis Cox and Chris Lea.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Panthers Playbook. That's Chris Lea, Dennis Cox here with you. Presented by Carolina Ford Dealers with the Ford F-150 on your team. Check out Carolina Ford Dealers today. Leave your thoughts in the comment section down below because I know a lot of Panthers fans are frustrated.
We both got fly for this.
We did, by the way. We
got fly for this. Like,
we did.
My man is in a jacket, you know what I'm saying? Got the button up and everything.
You know,
and the Panthers come out here and do this. And it's very interesting, Dennis, because, like, to see what was actually there, we were thinking, one of the things that we said on Panthers Playbook is that we wanted to see improvement from last week. And the only thing that improved was the rushing yards and yards per rush.
Chuba had a pretty solid day.
Other than that, literally everything went down on offense. I mean, less yards per pass, less yards per play. You had less passing yards. You know what I'm saying? It was bad.
More penalties,
more penalties.
Points.
You're right.
Like it just all of it was not great today. They have yet to complete a touchdown pass this season. The only touchdown they scored was Bryce Young last week against the Saints on a rush. That's it.
The Chargers scored more points in the second quarter of this game than what the Panthers have in 2 games.
It's not going well, and the frustration is mounting amongst Panthers fans, which is totally understandable, amongst the Panthers players, which we could tell. We actually have some sound in the locker room, Robert Hunt talking about frustration, and also J.C. Hornquist talking about the frustration of Panthers fans booing, but he's like, this is all I know. This is all I know. And we heard it at halftime when the players were leaving the field. We heard it at the end of the game. They were literally fans. It's the second game of the season wearing bags over their heads, Chris. That's where we are right now. That's where we are. And the frustration, I know they're going to point at number 9. It's justifiable. Justifiable. From my account, watching today, Bryce Young only completed 2 passes where the ball traveled more than 5 yards downfield. That's it.
Are you including the interception?
Make it 3. Make it 3. Make it 3. And those 2 completions went to Adam Thielen, and they came late when things were kind of out of control already.
So here's the part for me, and I always try to find a silver lining when I can. And the only silver lining I can really kind of come up with is the fact that it's early in Bryce Young and Dave Canales' tenure together.
The relationship.
It's going to be a rough start. He's a first-time head coach. Bryce Young's coming off of a really bad first year as a quarterback. This is his second year. Sometimes we see guys in the NFL take a jump in their third year, maybe. That's the only silver lining right now. But it's really hard to watch this. And I was saying this to you before the game, watching highlights of him at Alabama. Those are 2 different guys. Alabama Bryce Young and Carolina Panthers Bryce Young, 2 different guys. And that's the part that's really concerning. When we first met him after he got drafted, he seemed confident, upbeat. There was a light in his eyes. He looked like he was ready to play.
Yeah, there's a swagger.
And all of that is gone now. There's not a lot of eye contact. He's looking down. He's scratching his arm. He's when he's asked point blank, do you have confidence? And he says, I draw my confidence from the Lord. Now, you're not going to hear me say anything negative about anybody's religious beliefs. But let me just be real here. God isn't going to come on this field and throw touchdowns for you. Where's your confidence at in yourself, your abilities, and also your offensive line and your receivers to catch the passes? And I don't think we're seeing it right now.
I mean, we saw the frustration right over here on the sideline amongst the players. I know Bryce tried to talk to Deontay Johnson, and he's like, nah, like there's a kind of like some standoffish stuff and things like that. It's just, I mean, it's hard not to be, right? And it's hard to imagine your confidence not being shot right now. I mean, just looking, like you mentioned, his body language. He's at the podium post-game, or even on the field, like shoulders are slumped. I mean, just look at the face in his eye, just look in his eyes, and it's just like, he's like, I don't have an answer. I'd
love to go back, and maybe this is something that we can do, or if somebody already knows this off the top of their head, But his record at Mater Dei, his record at Alabama, since he's been in high school, has he lost as much as he has in literally a season and 2 games?
Yeah.
And probably not.
Probably not.
Right?
He probably had more losses last year than he had at any point in his life.
And so, like, that's the part. And we brought that up this week where Bryce Young is used to winning. He hasn't gone through adversity to this level before.
Not yet.
Sure, there's been certain things that's probably going on in other teams or whatever that they've had to get through while winning.
Yeah.
But now you have to you're playing against the best players in the world. You're in the NFL, and it's not going the way that you want it to go. And by the way, you're losing all while doing so. And the fans are either not showing up, and the ones who are showing up are booing you. Well, that's got to hit at you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it hit J.C. Horn. And here's actually, you had a chance to talk to him in the locker room. Here's J.C. Horn talking about the fans booing and that frustration.
I kind of got used to it. I kind of learned how to tune it out, but it's super frustrating when, it's year after year. You're hearing that from your home fans, and when other teams packing out the stadium more than the home fans. But like I said, we got to do our part and win football games so they can have something to come cheer for. So it go hand in hand.
Chris, I don't blame fans for booing. It's their right. They're frustrated. They haven't had a winning season here since before David Tepper was the owner. You have every single right to boo, and that frustration is carrying over across, again, this really is across the whole franchise, from players, coaches, fans, the whole deal.
I don't want to put words in J.C. Horn's mouth, but it's one of those things. You hear somebody talk about that, and it sounds like somebody, if I had the option to be here or elsewhere, I'd try my hand elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, that's real talk.
And that's going to be the tough part, especially when you're trying to build this team, because it's not just going to happen in the draft. You're also going to have to bring in some guys from free agency. And so, what will happen to your career here if you're a Carolina Panther? Will you be able to – I mean, shoot, we saw on the other team, DJ Chark, who wasn't dressed today. He's on the practice squad. But Bradley Bozeman, Hayden Hurst, Denzel Perriman,
all former Panthers.
Former Panthers players. And they are able to come in here to Bank of America Stadium and get a win.
Yeah, and, easily.
Half of the wins they were able to get last season.
Easily. It's just –
And so it's it's got to be a frustrating thing if you're a free agent coming here. And so that's one of those things where, that part's not on Bryce Young, but that's an overall organizational thing. That's something that David Tepper is really going to have to look at and probably even speak towards.
Probably. He's going to have to at some point. Question about Bryce. It feels like they don't trust him to throw the ball down the field. It doesn't feel like they trust him to throw the ball down the field. There were so many passes, Chris, where it was a third down and the pass was thrown short of the sticks. And I was like, all right, let's see if we can catch and run, because we saw him, again, trying to throw the ball downfield. Gosh, one of his first passes he threw today was a pick right across the middle of the field where I asked him in the post game, I was like, what did you see on the interception? He's like, I kind of got greedy. You could tell he's pressing, but they don't trust him to push the ball down the field, it feels like. And
either that or he doesn't trust himself.
Maybe it's both. I'm like, I'm not going to trust you if you don't trust yourself. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. But they don't trust him to push the ball down the field. Everything's underneath. You see the defenses are creeping up. They're not respecting any sort of deep threat because it's not there.
So
it's not there.
I tweeted this during the game.
Yeah.
This is starting to look like the very thing we didn't like under Frank Reich, and we thought it was Frank Reich.
Yeah.
And so now I'm starting to think, boy, do we owe him an apology?
Do we?
Okay, Sheena Quick is on the side saying no, we don't.
No, okay.
Follow Sheena Quick for sure. But a lot of the offense looks stagnant just like that.
Yeah.
And so, and right now you have to look at what is the common denominator. Yeah, you have some of the same offensive linemen. You have the same running back in Chuba Hubbard. He's been great. I have no complaints about him.
He was fine today.
You have some of the same wide receivers, but you have some new wide receivers in there. Who's there? Who's the common denominator?
Number 9. That's
and
really it.
I really hate, and in today's game also, this is another thing. As somebody who is under 6 feet tall, I didn't want to talk about somebody's size.
Yeah.
It's starting to show.
How many jump passes did
he had to jump pass?
I think he had more jump passes than he had passes go further than 5 yards downfield.
You're really starting to see where the size is becoming an issue.
Yes.
For him, because he doesn't have the athleticism of a Kyler Murray who can kind of
just run.
Juke his way or run away and kind of find his open spot, set his feet and go. Bryce Young isn't able to do that.
No.
And so it's I've wanted to avoid that, and I'm not going to go too far on it right now, but now you're starting to see that, and that's something I'll be looking for going forward.
And here's the thing, the protection today overall was fine.
Yeah.
Like there's one time he had to like circle out of the pocket and he tried to reset his feet, and then he ended up taking the sack himself as opposed to throwing the ball away.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, again, on the interception that he threw, the pocket was clean.
Offensive
it was a
line.
four-man rush. Pocket was perfectly clean, and he threw into just a traffic trying to get it to Deontay Johnson.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Taylor
what are you
Moton gave
looking
up a
at?
sack.
Taylor Moton did give up one sack.
There's some penalties by Icky. Other than that, everything else came from like blitzes or whatever. Like Chuba, messed up on a blitz pickup.
That's on like the one that he has scrambled.
But like other than that, the offensive line has been solid. Like what the Panthers have paid for is there.
Yeah.
So there's something going wrong between the play call, Bryce Young getting the play call, and then executing the actual play. It looks like wide receivers are getting open. We saw, you talked about the frustration. Adam Thielen was even frustrated coming off the field because there's one drive where the Panthers had a 3-and-out where Adam Thielen was wide open.
Yeah.
He comes off the field, taking off his helmet, and he doesn't normally show that. He's not that guy.
No.
Something is wrong.
And speaking of that frustration from players, here's Robert Hunt. I had a chance to ask him in the locker room, how do you not let the frustration carry over from not only from one play to the next or one series to the next, but from one game to the next?
You got to have a one-play mentality, man. I think that's what we got to focus on, having a one-play mentality and not letting the house burn down, you know what I mean? If shit don't go our way, we can't let it keep snowballing. It's tough.
All right, Chris, I had to edit that just a little bit to bleep out a word. You know, I got to keep it family-friendly out there for the kids from Robert Hunt. But I don't know. It's hard to find answers going into next week against the Las Vegas Raiders. It's hard to find answers right now because it's not like you're just going to get a whole crop of new players in. It's not like all of a sudden confidence is just going to spark out of nowhere. They got to find something, and they got to find it fast.
Here's the good thing about the Panthers' schedule so far.
Okay.
They're not playing a lot of good teams early on.
No.
But they're still not doing well against the good teams.
That's
the teams that are not so good, I should
exactly,
say.
Yeah.
So, we're going to have to see. Maybe a trip out to Vegas can kind of help things a little bit. Maybe a later start can help things a little bit. But, they're going to have to find something fast. And here's my thing. I'll go back to something I said earlier. This is still only the second game with Bryce Young and Dave Canales as a tandem.
Yeah.
It could get better.
Could.
And, that's something we were waiting for last year.
Yeah.
Never quite happened. But this time around, it could get better. We haven't really talked about Dave Canales a lot in our analysis the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But 2 weeks in a row, your team gets blown out. Coaching.
Yeah.
We've got to bring that up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's young in this.
He's new.
I'm not calling for his job.
He's new at it.
I'm not calling for his job at all. I think for the Panthers' sake, he needs at least 2 seasons.
Oh,
because you can't go back to back to back to back seasons with new head coaches.
Yeah.
But you've got some former head coaches on your staff. I would be talking to them every single day.
Yep.
To figure out, what am I doing wrong? How can I make this better? How can I design this whole thing better? And call up Pete Carroll.
Yeah,
hey,
call
Pete.
him up. Hey, he's free right now.
Bro.
He ain't doing nothing.
Look at some tape. Where am I going wrong, man? Just let me know. And hopefully he can get that right. I'm not off the bandwagon when it comes down to Canales yet.
Yeah.
But he's got to start showing some improvement.
I know a lot of people said, and we'll wrap up on this, a lot of people said last week couldn't get much worse, but all those stats you mentioned earlier, it was worse today.
Everything is worse. Here's the thing.
The rushing defense, by the way, gave up over 200 yards.
You talked about, you compared Bryce Young to Tofu.
Yeah.
I don't want to say this.
Go on.
Bryce Young is doing his best Matt Hardy impression. He's broken Matt Hardy. He's broken Bryce Young. Because we want to delete this season. Delete, delete, delete.
Carolina Ford dealers, get a Ford 1F50 on your side. Make sure you leave a comment. Subscribe here to Panthers Playbook. Maybe we can delete that game.